All right. Hello, class. How are you doing? This is your professor, Dr. Jace K. Austin, and welcome to week number 12. That is right, week number 12 of your 9407 class, which is your intellectual freedom and discontents class again. And as always, I am your professor, Dr. J. Austin. What we are going to do is one course update related to next week's debate. That's right, there will be that debate next week. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too, and I hope the debaters are looking forward to it as well, because they have been busting their asses in order to provide a very enlightening and full discussion. So, one thing that I'm going to do, and then I'm going to play actually a clip from Bill Maher's recent show from last week, because there's some very relevant conspiracy theory and propaganda and social media information in that clip, or maybe I shouldn't say information, but some things to think about that I think would be appropriate for a course like this, even though it's not really dealing with the subject matter of this week too much. But then again, filters and filtering, that can also go back to filtering truthiness, I think was Stephen Colbert's word, but truthiness in social media statements. And we have certainly seen the president and some other actors get, well, kind of censored, I guess you could say, or at least filtered by Twitter and some other social media platforms. So given that, first we are going to go over a few of the rules that are pertinent to you all as students who will be watching the debate next week. And then from there, we will go into watching that clip. And I would be interested in knowing what you think about it. So, having said that, let's first look at these debate things. All right. Let's get that out of the way. And let's pull up some Word here. We don't need this. The format is for the groups that are debating. Okay, so some things that I want you all to keep in mind, you all being the audience. This is not pertaining to my 6 debaters. But when it comes to my audience, first things first, be respectful at all times of the debaters. There is going to be a time during the debate. Let's see if I can scroll back up here. There is going to be, where is it? Yes, questions from the audience and Dr. Jace. That'll be a 20-minute segment of the debate from approximately 6:25 to 6:45. Where you will be allowed to directly unmute yourself and ask questions of the debaters on either side or on both sides. So you will have an opportunity during the debate as audience members to kind of talk with the speakers themselves, ask them questions, and maybe challenge them a little bit, but be respectful in how you do so. Also, during the debate, yes, you will be allowed to enter questions or comments into the chat section. However, those comments and questions must also be respectful, must not make fun of the debaters, because, trust me, it takes a lot of bravery for them to get up here and do this debate in front of you all. You all have no idea how brave that is. It is not easy. So be respectful, be polite, be positive and constructive. Okay. And so, in addition to knowing that you can post questions into the, chat during the debate session, another thing that I'm going to tell you all that you need to do is not correspond directly, privately with the debaters, because we all know that in Zoom you have that option of sending a private message to somebody. Don't do that. Do not do that, okay? I mean, if you send a private message to another audience member, that's fine. And please know that I can still see those, and not in real time, but I can see those when I access the recording later. and I am going to access this recording. So I will be able to tell if you all have sent private messages to the debaters to help them out. Please don't do that. That's not fair. But you will be able to, there will be a cross-examination time during the debate. What are some other things that I want to think about or want to put in your minds? Yes. Another thing that I want you all to be mindful of is I am going to be watching the time to make sure that we go through the debate in kind of a speedy way. I'm going to be trying to moderate the debate, basically. But if I start losing track of time, if you see that I said that there was going to be 10 minutes to do such and such a thing and we get into the 11th minute, you can definitely chat me or even turn on your microphone and say, yo, Dr. Jace, they are over time. This is over time and you need to put a stop to it. And if you do that, I most certainly will. All right. But yeah, the main thing is, pardon my language, but don't be an ass. That's really all there is to it. If you don't help one side get an advantage for some reason other than, of course, if they can't answer your question, then that's going to give them an advantage. But aside from, give them a disadvantage, I meant. But aside from that, as long as you don't do things that help one side have an advantage over the other side that's unfair, and as long as you're not acting a way toward your classmates that would be disrespectful or offensive, then you should be fine. Again, I'm looking forward to this. I've never done this before, so I don't really know what to expect. I participated in a debate when I was in grad school, but as far as actually having a class do one, this is my first time doing that, so we'll just see how it goes. We're not going to be expecting perfection here, okay? And part of that is going to be my fault. No matter what happens with the debaters, part of falling short of perfection is going to be my fault, because this is one of those things that has kind of a trial and error element to it. And so I haven't done the trial part before. This is my first time trialing. So we'll be trialing it. There will be errors, and I will make note of those errors. And yes, in the future, these will hopefully get better and better. But for the initial debate, this first one that I am hosting and having students do, yeah, it may not be quite that polished, but this is my opportunity to learn as well as y'all's. Also, I do want to say that probably a day or two after the debate, I will send out a Qualtrics survey. And that Qualtrics survey will basically be asking who you thought won the debate. Now, no matter who, quote unquote, wins the debate, in my opinion, all 6 participants are winners, okay? And regardless of who, quote unquote, won the debate, all 6 participants are going to be exempt from the final paper, and all 6 participants, have shown, I will just say, an incredible amount of bravery, and the losing side will not have their grade affected in any way. This is really all about participation with the groups that are, or with the individuals that are participating. It's not a grade based on winning, okay? So, and hopefully what I would love to see is like a 50-50 split, where half of you think that one side won and half of you think the other side won, but that's probably not going to be the case. And so what I will also say to my debate participants is, do not take it personally or feel ashamed or embarrassed or anything like that if your side is overwhelmingly not seen as the winner. Because again, what matters is that you put forth the effort, and I do appreciate you all doing so. It was very brave, and I have taken note of how brave that is. So when it comes to writing letters of recommendation, for instance, if you say, hey, Dr. Jace, I need a letter of recommendation written, and remember when I participated in that debate in your class and I was very uncomfortable, but I did it anyway. I'm going to mention that in my letter and talk about how you stepped up to the challenge. So that's how things work in higher ed. With that said, if there are further things that I need to tell you all, they will be coming by way of announcement. There will be no check-in video next week because of the sync session. And from there, let's look at a little Bill Maher. Even if you don't like Bill Maher, and I know a lot of you don't probably, conservatives hate him, liberals hate him, everybody hates Bill Maher. But I do find that there are discussions that take place on his show that don't take place anywhere else. And so I say that to say that this discussion about social media and the flow of information is very relevant, I would say, to all LIS students, but there's certainly some intellectual freedom concerns that come into play here. So we are going to watch that right now. Give me one moment.
First up, bringing it all back to that. We had to do it. He is the co-founder of the Center for Humane Technology, who is featured in the new Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma, Tristan Harris. Hey, how you doing? Great to see you. Okay, so first of all, what a great documentary. Not all documentary. There's some reenactments in there, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I wanted to ask you first about the election. You know, everyone who voted thinks they made a free and fair choice. Certainly free, my free will. But what you're getting at is that because of the manipulation that goes on from social media, where most people get their news now, it really wasn't a free choice in every sense of the word, was it?
No. Well, I mean, so the thing I think people need to get is that we are 10 years into this mind warp where we have been fed a individualized reality. Roger McNamee, you had on here a few years ago, talks about it as the Truman Shows. We've got 3 billion Truman Shows. And everyone thinks that because, imagine a husband and wife couple, they follow the same friends on Facebook. They've got the same friends, so if they open up Facebook, they should see the same feed. But that's not actually how it works. They'll actually see completely different realities based on what the algorithms will say, this is the thing that's likely to keep you here. And what that did is took the shared reality we have, put it through a paper shredder, and gave each of us a micro reality in which we're more and more certain that we're right and the other side is wrong, and it's totally confused us. I mean, we are so confused. We're 10 years into this process now.
Which nobody voted on.
No.
It just happened. And we, of course, are always seduced by convenience. No one wants to give up the phone. I mean, I can't imagine doing that.
Correct.
But one thing I love that you portray, as I was alluding to a minute ago in the movie, is you personify what an algorithm is, really. I mean, an algorithm is just inside the computer. Right. But you have 3 actors there.
From Mad Men, in fact, the actor from Mad Men.
Right. And they're watching this guy. On screens, and we see them making decisions about how they can manipulate him. Or we're going to send him an alert. Or we're going to say he got a like on that. Oh, we're going to tell him that there's a woman he's interested in within 100 feet.
Or his ex-girlfriend that he hasn't used in a while, so maybe we'll use the ex-girlfriend. That'll get him back.
And this is without people actually doing that, that is what's going on, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, if you try to delete, it is evil. I mean, that's the whole point, is because of this competition for attention, the companies started getting really aggressive about what could they dangle in front of your nervous system to get you to come back. If you ever try to delete your Facebook account, it'll actually show you 5 friends' faces and says, are you sure you want to delete your account? These 5 photos, these 5 friends, they're going to miss you. So it's like a digital drug lord. When you leave, they try to figure out something to dangle in front of you to convince you to come back. And it's really just, it's destroyed our mental health of our teenagers. It's polarized our societies. It's addicted each of us. And it has really warped, I think, the psyche that now we are in the middle of with this election. Because I think, much like a psychotic patient has a mind that is fractured against itself, our national psyche is now fractured against itself. If you look at even the examples of Count the Vote people and the Stop the Count, there's a great stat recently that Republicans estimate that 1/3 of Democrats are LGBTQ, even though only 6% are. And Democrats estimate that 38% of Republicans make more than $250,000 a year, even though it's only 2% of Republicans make that much money. So we really have been confused by these individual realities that have warped all of our perceptions.
And it's especially dangerous now because a great deal of the country is going to believe that this election is stolen.
Yeah.
That Joe Biden is not a legitimate president. And then what happens? Because then it's not like Facebook is going to shut that side down, or are they? Are they going to? I mean, they've taken the companies have now taken moves that we never saw up until a few months ago.
That's right, and it's due to a lot of the public pressure that they haven't acted enough. So there's this weird situation we're in, where if you let the Frankenstein run without any controls, and so anything goes viral if it gets the most clicks and likes, that just rewards the most conspiracy theories. YouTube, for example, recommended Alex Jones' InfoWars conspiracy theories 15 billion times, which is more than the combined traffic of New York Times, Washington Post, Guardian, Fox News combined. And when you just realize the scale of all of that, conspiracy theories are especially dangerous because they're like a trust bomb. They warp your perception of everything that comes after it. In fact, the best predictor of whether you'll believe in a new conspiracy theory is whether I already got you to believe in one. And once you believe, for example, the election is rigged or it's stolen, then you perceive everything through that lens, and it warps all of your perceptions.
But also, I don't think they're doing it well. I mean, Twitter, can I read you what was blocked on Twitter just last week? Now, this is from the head of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Mark Morgan. I don't really agree with this comment, but this is what he said. He's talking about they're continuing to build the wall every day, which is his domain. Every mile helps us stop gang members, murderers, sexual predators, and drugs from entering our country. It's a fact, walls work. I could take issue with some things in there, but it's an opinion.
Yeah.
This should not have been blocked. Yeah. This feeds into them.
Right.
Saying, you just don't want to hear anything that you don't agree with. And this is a platform. Twitter, it's about expressing opinions. Yeah. And here somebody expresses an opinion, I may not agree with it, but then it's like, well, my opinion isn't your opinion, so you can't talk on my platform about opinions. That's fucked up, too.
It is.
Wow, I got the liberals to applaud for that. Good.
I think, no, I mean, we have to protect freedom of speech. I think the distinction that Renee DiResta makes is freedom of speech is not the same as freedom to reach, meaning we're all granted the right to speak, but are you granted a football stadium-sized audience to say anything you want without accountability? And when you let that become the default, like that's what makes up our information environment, that the default information all of us are consuming is each of us get a football-sized stadium and say whatever you want without any accountability. Like imagine how you would feel if all your ex-romantic partners could get on a football stadium TV screen and say whatever they wanted without any accountability. You don't end up with a healthy information environment. And we also get more rewarded the more extreme things that we say. And the more extreme thing you say, the more likes and feedback you get, which leads us into our own distortion of, hey, we're really right. We have all these supporters. We're on the righteous side of history.
So what is the answer? I mean, how do you protect free speech while also not looking like you're censoring? I saw Trump made that outrageous statement yesterday, and I noticed CNN didn't cut into it, but MSNBC right away.
Cut into, you mean to cut away from
it? Right away to say, this is bullshit. And of course it was bullshit.
Right.
But the people who don't know it's bullshit or think it's bullshit or have been trained to not see that as bullshit. Right. And let's be honest, the underlying of all of this, what we're talking about, is that the American people are just too stupid to be governed. They have no bullshit detector. They believe a lot of kooky stuff on the left, and on the right, they believe in QAnon. Yeah. A lot of, I mean, there is no bullshit detector. There's no knowledge of the past. You can't scare them by saying Trump is becoming a totalitarian. What's that? Well, you know, like East Germany. What's that? Yeah. During the Cold War. What's that? Yeah. If they have no, I can't scare someone with this if I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, I think
not this audience. Of course.
We've
no, it's true.
They're too smart.
Well, I mean. If you come to this show, you're not that guy. But that is what we're dealing with, right?
I mean, I think we have to realize that
technology wouldn't be so scary if people had a better brain to deal with it.
Right, but what has social media done to our brain?
What's that?
But what has social media done to our brain? That's the problem. Right? So social media is the downgrading of our attention spans, our critical thinking, our ability to form an opinion on anything that's not the hyper-present. We don't read books anymore. We have polarization, conspiracy thinking.
That's a part. So it is the time suck.
Yeah, absolutely.
The time suck.
Well, and so
we just don't have time to do things that are deeper.
Right.
Because
the business model, so long as we're the product, which is the point we make in the film, we are worth more when we are addicted, distracted, outraged, narcissistic, polarized, and disinformed than if we're a thriving citizen, an informed citizen of a democracy.
Right.
And the same thing is true. A child is worth more if they're narcissistic and attention-seeking and seeing how many likes they have than if they're actually a free, growing, developing kid playing with their friends. And so just as Justin, who's the inventor of the like button, who's in the film, says at the end, so long as a whale is worth more dead than alive, and a tree is worth more as 2x4s than as a tree, in this new model of this attention business model, we're the whale. We're the tree. We're the thing that is being mined to be converted. That was a balloon.
Thank you very much.
Did you plan that? That was good.
It went smoother in rehearsal, but I thought we pulled it off. All right, but let me one more thing, and then I'll let you go. But you said a few minutes ago about we destroyed the minds of our teenagers.
Yeah.
How can you tell?
How can we tell? I feel like you should be making my points for me.
No, but that's a powerful statement.
Yeah. Well, I think so.
Because they're going to be the leaders soon and the voters.
Yeah. Well, so the teenagers aren't stupid. I want to make sure I'm really clear here. I don't want to do naive moral panic. So we've always worried about television, radio, video games, et cetera. I played video games as a kid. I grew up on technology. I'm pro-technology. The difference is that this technology, the business model, is converting us into someone who cares more about the number of new likes and followers and comments that we have than living our lives.
So
because
pathetic.
now each of us get to participate in a system that profits from social performance, where we each perform, and that's what we're doing with our time, instead of actually doing any of the other things that we care about. And if you look at it from a national security perspective, it's almost like, this is your brain on drugs. Take the United States brain, you add Facebook to it, it just downgrades us compared to societies like China or Russia or other countries that don't do that. They're not going to have the same problem. So it's actually a competition for who downgrades their population the least.
All right. Well, thanks, man. You did a great job with the movie. Keep the message going.
Thank you.
People do need to hear it. All right. All right, let's meet our panel.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that and that you found something that you could take from that. A few things that I do want to say really quick before I let you all go is that, yes, when it comes to what he was saying, I think that there was I feel a lot of power in that. And in fact, I wish I had Netflix. I was actually using my girlfriend's Netflix account before she left me. But she is now gone, so I no longer have Netflix. And so I wish I could see that, and maybe there's some DVD thing that I can check out somewhere. Who knows? But anyhow, so one of the big things that I wanted to take out of that really quick was just this element again of the time sink, or the time suck, or whatever terminology was used there. I'm going to use the terminology time sink because I'm sure it's probably less offensive. So when it comes to a time sink, going back to that Medium article that I had you all read of mine, or Medium column, I should say, that I had you all read of mine the first week, that is what I'm talking about. And I think that another underreported threat that we've got going on in society is that it's all good. Like, I honestly do kind of wish that there was a way to distinguish good faith actors from bad faith actors. If we could, then society would be so much better off. Even just, that little change would push the needle a long way. And I think what we've got is we do have bad faith actors, including Alex Jones, who are, because I don't think Alex Jones is really as psycho as he comes across. I just think that, I think that he knows that he can play to a bit of a psycho audience. So when it comes to that time sink, because I know that my comments about potentially deplatforming certain actors did not go over well. And I do understand that. And I understand the move against censorship. I understand all of that. But I do think that there may be a bit of a national security concern in itself when we are platforming people who are clearly bad actors, and we don't get the bad actors out of the way. Because what happens is, even if they are not being believed. What they're doing is they are still contributing to a time sink that would be used for better purposes, including getting better information. Because I know people who are just so determined to put the right information into the ether that they will, if they see a bad actor, they will still bait and try to engage people on Twitter or on Facebook or whatever social media in order to, they'll take the bait in order to try to correct the record, which is noble. But it still leads to, A, you may not change people's minds except for the minds of those who were already skeptical anyway. But aside from that, you're probably just preaching to the choir. And in addition to this element of preaching to the choir, I think that there's potentially room for people to I think that there is just definitely room for people to become so exhausted and disenchanted and everything with the process that they stop engaging or they miss important information elsewhere. So that leads to people lacking information who otherwise or normally wouldn't lack that information, but they're spending too much time on a particular thing that they're trying to debunk and those sorts of things. So I do think that people who are intentionally bad actors, and I think that foreign governments could start employing, I think China and Russia could start employing American citizens to put bad information into the ether. In fact, sometimes I wonder if that has already happened. The rapper Ice Cube, he was in the news recently, and I would hate to say that Ice Cube is a sellout because I grew up listening to Ice Cube, but he took on some very weird stances related to this last election, and I'll let you Google around to find that out if you're curious enough. And then he went on Roland Martin's show and could not answer anything, and I was just like, either you've lost your mind, like you've got such fatigue in the mind and other things that you're not thinking clearly, or you are being paid by somebody to do this. And I also think that there is potential for those who are paid by foreign governments to not even know it. Like, what if a celebrity or somebody is actually paid by a spy? So they think that they are, and I know maybe I'm starting to sound cuckoo to all of you all, but trust me, if I'm thinking it, I do think that world leaders have thought it. Because they just have ways that they try to push the boat. And so I don't think that I'm thinking anything that some rogue government or some official within a rogue government has not thought. So, what if in a hypothetical situation, Ice Cube were paid by a spy? He thinks that he is being paid by an American actor, and really he is being paid by maybe a Russian spy and doesn't even know it. So, the possibilities are endless. We need more books like Fahrenheit 451 right now. I think that there are scary times ahead, and I think that social media could be very, very harmful for our republic, even more so than already has been. So I hope you enjoyed that clip. I am claiming, by the way, educational fair use for that clip because this video is intended for an audience of graduate students at the University of Missouri. Okay. All right. So that's it for me. I will see you all next week in that sync session. Until then, keep up the good work with the discussion boards and everything else that you're doing. Try to have a good semester. I know a lot is going on out there, but I think the bad times are made so the good times are appreciated. Actually, I don't think that. I think it's all chance, really, or a collection of chance. But I will say that I still do believe that bad times help us appreciate the good times. Maybe that's a better way of saying that. So I am Dr. Jace. If you make something you like in the kitchen, make sure you get a taste. There we go. All right, have a good one. I'm out.